Hello everyone, Danny here today with a new hat, courtesy of my son Jonah, who's in the Marine Corps, and this hat actually came from Australia. It is a genuine Barma squashy hat in a bag made in Australia, kangaroo leather. This, not that you care, but this is going to be my shooting hat. I compete in shooting competitions, and this is going to be the hat that I'm going to start wearing for my shooting competitions. I'm so excited. You don't care, I know that, but I do. I like this hat. So, and I look good in this hat, by the way. I look stunning in this, amazing. And this is a hat that only certain people can pull off, but I think I pull it off. I definitely pull it off amazingly. Once again, you don't care about the hat or anything else. You're here to hear about not my audiobook, but the audiobook that I plan on telling you about, which is Heir Today, Gone Tomorrow, written by Eric Ugland, narrated by Neil Hellegers. This is the second book in his Good Guys trilogy. And if you've listened to my review of his first book, which I'll provide a link for down in the, wherever you provide a link for in there. I'm a really super technical kind of a dude. As you can tell by all the special effects I put in my videos and how I use all these technical terms that lose everyone. But down below, after where the video is in YouTube, whatever you call that section, I'll put a link in there. I do know how to do that, to that video. If you watch that video, you'll see that I had a lot of questions. I enjoyed the book a lot, but there were points of the story where, to me, instead of the points connecting, they missed each other. That doesn't make sense. Why is that way? A lot of that gets addressed in this book, and I had people actually go down and leave me comments saying, hey, those questions get addressed later on in the series. Keep listening to this series. Well, it gets addressed next book. Most of the questions I had. Well, one of the questions I had was, how does someone who was such a low-level thug in his first life get targeted the way he's targeted and killed the way he's killed in the first book? Because this is a lit RPG book. In the first book, he's about to be killed, and a friend comes to his rescue by offering him an opportunity to enter his conscience into this book. End of this video, for those of you who care and have noticed I've been inconsistent with my videos, I'm going to give an explanation of everything that's been going on. I'm not going to do it now. I'll do it at the end so people who just want the book don't have to listen through all of that. But a leftover effect is I'm going to be doing a little coughing and regular sipping of coffee to help keep from coughing a lot through this video. So, where was I? Oh, it didn't make sense. Why would such a low-level threat? He dies a death that would make sense if he was an international assassin or he was a spy. If he was James Bond, he'd die the death he died. But he wasn't James Bond. He was a low-level, leg breaker from the good guys. That wasn't who he was. That's my interpretation of book one. You find out from book two who he was, why he died the way he died, and it brings the points closer together. A full explanation isn't given. He just talks a bit, but they're brought closer together enough to where you can see, okay, I can see where it's going, and I can kind of see how they'll all of a sudden connect there. He's really stupid, which is part of the disconnect. How does someone who earned the death that he earned but is so stupid become that important of a person to earn that death? That doesn't connect. Well, pay attention to the stat sheets. In this book, book two, the stats play a more important role. They go over the stats more often. Excuse me. And the stats play a more important role. Pay attention to the stats, and you'll notice at one point in time in the book, as he's going through the stats, he even notices, wait a minute, that's why he's so stupid. You need to fix that. And he addresses it. He doesn't address it as much as I would have. I would have put more into that, the fixing that stat, but he addresses it, and then he's not quite as stupid. He, up to that point, he's stupid enough that if he's going to do something stupid and the people around him who are watching out for him try to stop him, He ignores them and just keeps going. Now at least he's intelligent enough that if he's going to do something stupid and they're like, hey, stop, that's stupid, he stops. So he addresses it a little bit, not fully. Parental warning, lots of swearing in this book. Book 1, Montana, the main character, is basically the only person that swears. And a lot of his swearing confuses the people because they don't know what he's talking about. You've got a little bit of the language confusion in book 2, but not as much. And obviously, as is happening, excuse me, as happens in real life, his language is affecting the people around him because the people around him have started swearing. There is a sensual scene. I guess that's the word for it. It's not really a sexual scene. It's more of a sensual scene in the book. My boys, I would have kept this book away from them for the language. The sensual scene was not really anything that was enough that I would have kept it away. But I know people who it would offend them and their family. So it's a personal taste kind of a thing. It was really minor, really small. I would have listened to that part of the book around my kids, not the swearing parts of the book around my kids. But that's all of the parental warnings in there. Before I go on, I have a favor to ask. If, like me, you love audiobooks, please subscribe to my channel, turn on notifications, join me in my audiobook journey. Now, in book 1, the book ends on not what I would call a cliffhanger. To me, to be a cliffhanger, someone's life has to be on the line. The main character's life it's not a major decision, it's your life's on the line. Well, book 1 doesn't end with his life on the line. Book 1 does end with him having a major decision to make. He's offered the heir to a dukedom. Does he accept the heir to the dukedom? Remember, book 1, he was fighting the game. He was fighting the system. He had lived this ugly, violent life on Earth. And he wanted to escape that ugly, violent life on Earth. And he viewed the game as a chance to restart, reset. Now I can go from being the bad guy to being the good guy. However, I want to be the good guy who farms, who gardens, who fishes. Not the good guy who violently defends the helpless. And the game keeps putting him in situations where he has to violently defend the helpless. That's another thing that's, someone actually addresses that with him and explains to him in book 2, hey, you're not going to be allowed to do that. The game will not allow you to do that. The game has a role it expects you to play. And it's going to continue to put you in situations where you have to play that role. And so he starts to accept it a bit more. He hasn't fully accepted it. He still has a dream that, hey, I'm going to get a chance at some point in time in the game to relax and live the peaceful life I want to live. I'm just going to have to kill a lot of people and monsters, and fill this role the game wants me to roll before the game will allow me to do that. He still has hopes. Hey, there's one point in the journey to where he's like, because they're making a journey. This book, him and his party are traveling across the land. And there's one point to where he's like, I'm going to sit on that boat and I'm going to fish. I'm so excited. In fact, he's offered several gifts. And he makes his decision on the gifts not based upon, this is what I think will fit my character the best. This is what I think will help me the most in the game. No, this one has fishing in it. Oh, this has the skill fishing. I'm picking that one, and then I'm going to go sit on that boat and I'm going to fish. So he hasn't fully accepted the game and what the game is going to do to him, because obviously the game's not going to let him take a time out to sit on a boat and fish. That's not how video game. Can you imagine a video game? Well, actually, I can imagine. I've played video games where you sit and fish, and they're kind of fun. But you catch a lot of fish on those video games. You're constantly getting fish. It's not like real fishing to where, you takes a while between fish, unless you're like at a populated lake, where I forget what they call it, but where they dump farmed fish into it, which are never any fun to fish at anyhow. But if you go where I like to go to fish, it takes patience. Fishing requires patience. So if they had a video game that required the patience it takes to fish, that would not be a whole lot of fun. So obviously this video game's not going to let him do that. But he started to accept that, okay, I have to be this violent person. There are some really epic, awesome battles in this book. My favorite involves him against, I don't know, a large group of guys. I would guess at 10, 20. They don't name a number, but based on the way to describe it, I would guess at 10 to 20 guys, all armed. He's unarmed. And it's a great battle. Other planes come into existence in this. There's a version of a dungeon dive in this book. So book 1 had a dungeon dive in it. This book has a dungeon dive in it, but things in the dungeon are changed up enough that it starts off feeling like a dungeon dive, goes away from feeling like a dungeon dive. And by the end of the dive, it no longer feels like a dungeon dive. Then he comes back, gets his reward, and it's back to feeling like a dungeon dive. So it's kind of a fun, unique twist on a dungeon dive. Same narrator as book 1, which I love the fact they stuck with the narrator. This guy is great for this book and for this series. The book ends the same way, but slightly different than book 1 ended. Book 1 ended with him needing to make a major life-changing decision. Book 2 ends with a major life-changing event. It's not a cliffhanger, his life's not on the line, but he has a huge decision to make. And now I'm torn. I'm really torn because I'm invested in Montana. I'm invested in this book series. I want to keep going with it. But I was just having a conversation with Justin, my youngest son, and earlier in the year, I listened to and did a review of a book called Sufficiently Advanced Magic. And anyone who listened to that video and has been waiting for me to listen to the next video, I couldn't get into book 2. I just couldn't do it. Well, come to find out, talking to Justin, that's because Sufficiently Advanced Magic is not the first book in the series like we thought it was. That's the middle of the series. So we now have the entire series. I can go back, listen to book 1, restart that series properly, and then the reason why I couldn't get into book 2 should be addressed by, not book 2, but the next book after Sufficiently Advanced Magic, because it's not book 2. By the time I get to that book, should be addressed. According to Justin and Caleb, my 2 book buddies, it's a great series. But I'm loving this series as well. So I'm probably going to be listening to 3 books at the same time. I've got a book on health and fitness that I'm listening to as well. Now, to why I've been inconsistent with my videos. So we've had a lot going on. You got the holidays, which add a lot to life in general. But the day before Thanksgiving, my dad was diagnosed with terminal stomach cancer. So there's been a lot that we've been dealing with that. The burden has fallen a lot more on my sisters and their family because they live by dad. So they've been having to get him to doctors and things like that. But I've gone down there as much as I can to try to help out. We had family come out for the holidays. We've had a packed house, which, when your son, who's been gone for a year and a half serving in the Marine Corps, comes out, you forget about recording videos. You're just spending time with the family. Day before Christmas, I came down with what the urgent care doctor that I saw described as the single worst case of influenza A that he has seen all year. The funny story with that. So I came down with it the day before Christmas. Spent that night and Christmas on the couch. Fortunately, because we had family out, we'd actually celebrated Christmas the weekend before, so it didn't spoil Christmas for anyone, but that was my Christmas on the couch. My wife said I was delirious and moaning. We did not have a thermometer in the house at that time, so we don't have a fever. The day after Christmas, I felt like the fever had broken. I felt so much better. And my wife kept texting me. She was at work, and she kept texting me, go to the ER, go to urgent care. You're really sick. You woke me up a couple of times last night, delirious and moaning because of your fever. I don't care if you feel better. Go to the doctor. So finally, I was like, fine, I'm going to shut my wife up. She's annoying me. I'm going to go to the urgent care. Well, I get there. I have 104 fever, and the doctor says I'm the sickest person he's seen all year with influenza A. Yet I felt like I didn't have a fever, and I felt so much better. So we're kind of how high was my fever when I was delirious and everything. That's how sick I was. That put me out for a good week, and it's had residual effects. The doctor said that it'll probably be a month to 2 months before I'm actually fully got it out of my system. It was just the contagion and me getting back to work. And then a couple of months ago, I was squatting and I popped 3 hernias. I did 2 groin hernias, 1 on each side and 1 stomach hernia, all on the same lift. Went down, went to go up. I felt and heard it. My trainer heard it. The weight went off and I went straight onto the floor. So we've had to modify my training a lot. Well, 2 Wednesdays ago, I went in and had surgery. The 2 groin hernias are too small. They didn't require surgery, but the stomach hernia required surgery. And so then, of course, I was out of it on painkillers and everything else. And today's my first day back in jeans and recovered enough that I can actually record this video. Going forward, things have settled down into a pattern enough with Dad. Holidays are over, surgery's over, over the flu. So barring any unseen circumstances, I should get back to regularly posting videos. Thank you very much for being patient with me and not abandoning me just because I was, unable to be consistent with. I've never had a cough before, and I have this cough and I'll tell you this much. So when you come out of hernia surgery, because of the stuff they put in you, the anesthesia, the doctors want you to cough every 3 hours to kind of help clear your lungs. Well, it was even worse back then. I was coughing every 5 minutes, and that hurt so bad. At least that's really calmed down now. My cough's much less, everything else. But let me sign off here. So, oh man, and my brain, this is my second attempt at this video because my first attempt, I didn't get interrupted. I mean, I record these on my phone, so I'll have times where I'm recording a video and someone calls and it interrupts the video, and so I have to re-record it. That didn't happen. What happened was I went through and I'm re-listening to the video and I'm like, I got that name wrong. I got that fact wrong. Oh, wow, he's not my youngest son. Oh, he's not my son. And then where's my brain at right now? So I'm going to re-listen to this. Hopefully I've got it straight. And that little rabbit trail allowed me to remember my clothes. So no matter what else you do today, make sure that today you listen to at least one really good audiobook. Oh, and I very highly recommend Heir Today, Pawn Tomorrow, written